Hello and welcome to the GSM High School online service. We are so excited that you are here. In just a second, you are going to see the full message from the start of our brand new first series of the school year called It's Personal. At the end of this video, we will have about 3 questions that you can be thinking about throughout this next week, right? Let's get ready to lean in as we think about It's Personal.
Great. When I was in 7th grade. Yep, when I was in 7th grade, I had this opportunity to go and play in an international hockey tournament in Canada. It was being hosted in Niagara Falls, and I had this opportunity, and it was truly an opportunity because I wasn't on this team. I didn't try out for this team. I had never played with this team. But for my age group, there were only like a handful of goalies. I played goalie. This particular team only had one goalie on their team. They make it to this tournament, and their one goalie had prior commitments that weekend. He had to go and participate with something at his school. And so the coach knew me because we had all kind of grown up together playing hockey, me and his son. And so the coach reaches out and says, "Hey, would you be available just to play with our team for this one weekend in Niagara Falls?" And me and my parents, we talk about it and we discuss it and we try to figure out if this would be something, maybe worth doing. And so we're like, yeah, it sounds like an incredible opportunity, like a true opportunity. I'm not on this team, and then all of a sudden I get invited to play for a weekend against some amazing competition from all over the United States and Canada. And since I wasn't on this team, I didn't have my own jersey. These jerseys were expensive too. And I wasn't about to buy my own jersey just for a weekend to put it on for maybe 4 or 5 games and then take it off and never wear it again. And so a couple families got together and they were like, maybe we can find someone else's jersey for you to wear, to borrow. Someone who's played before, it's an old jersey, and you can wear that for the tournament. And I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. So I get this jersey and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, it'll be just like a blank name on the back. There'll be no name. That's okay. It doesn't have to say VanDeVoorde across the back. I'm cool with no name. It didn't have no name. It didn't have my name. It had a random last name from the person who owned this before. The last name was Lomaka. So all of a sudden, this entire tournament, I'm wearing this jersey with not my name, not blank, a name that I had no tie to. And at these kind of tournaments, if you play in any sort of travel sports, it was one of those tournaments that they had photographers everywhere. On every single rink, they weren't on the rink, they were near the rink, but they were taking pictures of everything. And so you could finish the game and then go over to the screen and they would upload the pictures so quickly. And you could look through all the pictures, and if you wanted, you could get a picture of yourself on a sweatshirt, I guess. That was an option. Or you could get it like a little printout for your grandma, for her wallet, right? They were immediately right there. And so the entire team would gather around this little TV screen, and we're looking through all the pictures. It would just be like an easy slideshow. And there I am. I'm in a picture. But here's the thing. If I showed you the picture and I was like, that's me. I played in that game, you wouldn't believe me. Because the name on the back's not my name. You wouldn't be able to see my face because I have this goalie mask on. It says Lomaka. You would not believe me if I was like, that was me. It could be my same pads, the exact same stick that I played with, everything. You'd be like, I don't know. That's not your last name. I played throughout this entire tournament, and it was a ton of fun. And a name in this instance is kind of whatever. It was short notice. I was able to be there with the team, and I didn't want to pay for a jersey, so I get a jersey with a different name on the back. It's whatever. But maybe you've had an instance where someone, and if it has been me, I am so sorry, calls you by the wrong name to your face. Or maybe it's a coach that you've played for them for 3 years, and they never once call you by name. They always just call you by the position that you play. Or they say, hey, buddy, right? It's like, coach, I've played for you for 3 years and you don't know my name? Maybe it is someone that you sit next to in a class, and maybe you've sat with them for years and years and years to the point where like you're not friends, you wouldn't hang out outside of school, but you know their name because you've been in the same science class with them year after year. And then you see them outside of school at a sporting event, football game, whatever it may be, and they're introducing people around a circle, and they get to you, and they're like, hey, do you want to just introduce yourself to everybody? It's like, what? We sat in biology together. We sat in chemistry together. We sat in AP biology together. And you don't know my name? I thought we were close. I thought we knew each other. But there's this tie to the name. It's like all of a sudden, I don't know if we're actually that close. Now, when it comes to relationships, these kinds of friendships, I think that we would all agree that relationships shouldn't be fake. Do we agree on that? Friendships, relationships, I don't think any of us want to be in fake relationships or fake friendships. Now, what's the opposite of fake? I would agree with you. I would agree with you in the instance of like an art piece or a pair of like Ray-Ban sunglasses or anything that you buy from wish.com. There's a difference between a fake and something that's real. However, I think there's a better word for people. I think it's the opposite of fake for people is personal. I think it's personal. And there's this tie to the name that if someone knows your name, calls you by name, it changes something a little bit. It makes us feel important. It makes us feel remembered. It makes us feel like there is a connection between us and that person. And here's the thing. People could seem real to you. Like that person that you sit with in class could maybe know something about you. Or that teammate that you have, like, they seem cool around you. It seems real. But there's a difference between real and personal. Think about it. Anybody can be real with you without being personal with you. Anybody can notice the brands that you wear, but do they know your name? Do they know a little bit of your story? Being personal puts somebody in a whole different category within that relationship, within that friendship. Now, if I were to ask you, make a list of everybody that you know who knows your name. Just in your head. Make a list of everybody that you know. It might be a pretty decently long list. There might be some people on that list that you think they know your name, but when it comes down to it, they might not know your name, know who you are. I would also wonder and ask, is God on that list? Is God on the list of people that you would think, yeah, they know my name? Now, here's the thing. Some of you may have grown up hearing things that like God knows who you are. You might have seen a verse actually like this one from Luke chapter 12, where it says, this is Jesus speaking, he says, "Indeed, the very hairs of your head are numbered." That's like pretty personal. To know every amount of hair that's on someone's head. So maybe this concept is not brand new for you. But maybe it's like, hold on, I don't know if I can take that fully. I don't know if I can accept that fully. Now, let's just think right now about God, okay? Let's just, in this room, I understand that there are going to be different thoughts and feelings on God. Maybe some of us are entirely new to all of this. And so you're not really sure what you think, what you believe yet. That's why you're here. Maybe you want to ask some questions, right? Maybe you've been around quite a bit and you've wrestled with this before, and you feel like you have a pretty foundation of who you believe God is in your life. For this sake, for this instance, let's just go with the thought that God is real and that God created the universe. Okay? Let's just all pretend that that's where we're all at right now for this instance, because it might be hard to think like that, to see something like this galaxy. It's called the Sombrero Galaxy. Look at that. The Sombrero Galaxy, the real name. It is 31 million light years away from Earth, and it might be hard to think that the same God who created that picture, it's gone, that picture, not created that picture, but created that galaxy, that God knows my name? That big of a God knows my name. Or what about the butterfly nebula that looks like this? Look at that. There's so much going on there. It is part of a constellation called Scorpius. It is huge. The surface temperature of its central star is 450,000 degrees. The God that created that knows my name. Am I expected to believe that the God that created that knows me personally? Or what about this one? This one is called the Pillars of Creation. And it's made of interstellar gas and dust. And it's within this nebula called the Eagle Nebula. And it's about 7,000 light years from Earth, and the gas and dust are actually in the process of creating new stars, while at the same time they're being eroded by the light from other stars near it. Wait, so we're to believe that a God so big and powerful, creating nebulas and galaxies as beautiful as that, would have even taken the time and energy to know that my middle name is Patrick? That's what we're expected to think as we think of this, and maybe some of the aspects as to why that's hard to believe, why it's hard to get there, is because the times that you've tried to pray to God, nothing. You haven't seen God. So it might be hard to get from a God that creates that being personal with me, or maybe you don't really know much about God or even care much about God. So it feels strange to think like this. that he would care about you. Or maybe you've met Christians who say that they follow Jesus, but they don't care about you. I've met a couple people like that. So it might be, wait, hold on, there's people that are trying to follow Jesus, but they don't care about me personally. Why would their God that they follow care about me personally? Maybe you think he doesn't seem personal if he is real, if he's just so big that he created all of that we just looked through. It might be hard to get there. Now, while I feel that some of these reasons are valid reasons to think through, especially the one where you meet Christians and they don't care about you. That one feels valid. However, I do believe that God is real. I do believe that God is powerful, that God is a crazy, creative creator who overflows with grace. And I do believe that God knows your name and my name and cares about us. And here's the reason that I think that. Because fakeness, when you think of fakeness, it is literally the opposite of how Jesus lived. Fakeness was literally the opposite of how Jesus lived. He got up close and personal with everybody that he ran into. And as we understand Jesus as the Son of God, if I see Jesus being personal, then that means that God is personal. And one of the people that Jesus has interest in and is personal with, we are going to spend time in this series reading about. Because it's an incredible story that tells us so much about the character of God and who God is. And it's about how God became personal with a man named Zacchaeus. Now, since we're going to spend a fair amount of time with this guy named Zacchaeus, I'm going to give you a little bit of a head start, a little bit of a background for Zacchaeus. Now, Zacchaeus was a tax collector. Zacchaeus was someone whose main job was to sit at basically the toll booth. And when people would come in to the city or pass by, they would pay a tax to the Roman Empire that was ruling that area at the time. And that tax would then support that Roman Empire. What these tax collectors would do is they would take their share for the Roman Empire and say, hey, you guys good? Cool. And then take a little bit more for themselves and pocket it. Not just slimy, greedy. That's who Zacchaeus was. Not only was he that, he was a chief tax collector. He was the top of the top. He was someone that people in the area would not have liked. Not only because he was stealing from them, but he was actually a man of Jewish heritage working for the Roman Empire and then taking money from his fellow Jewish people. It was not someone that you wanted to hang out with if you lived back then. It was not someone that you wanted to be around. And at this point in Jesus' life, he's not just a carpenter's son anymore in the point of this event. He has done some miracles. He has laid out some monumental, life-changing teaching already. And he has quite a following at this point. And he's traveling through this city called Jericho, and he's on his way to this other city called Jerusalem. And there's a crowd with him because, again, he's famous at this point. People know who he is. People want to know who he is. and be by him. So he's rolling through, and we see this guy, Zacchaeus, wants to get a glimpse of him, wants to get a glimpse of Jesus, see for himself who Jesus is. So Zacchaeus climbs up a tree. He's sitting up in the tree. He's watching Jesus roll by. And this is where we're going to pick up the story, because this is where Jesus gets personal. It's found in the book of Luke. It's Luke chapter 19, verses 5 to 6, and it should be up on the screen behind me. It says this: when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up, because remember, our boy Zach, he's chilling in the tree, and he said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So Zacchaeus came down out of the tree at once and welcomed Jesus gladly. Let's break it down. Out of this entire crowd, we see Jesus roll in. He comes to this spot. He doesn't just look up in the tree and say, "Hey, yo, in the tree, I want to have some lunch at your house." He doesn't say, "Hey, buddy, I want to hang out with you today." He's not like, "Hey, pal, me and my boys are hungry. Got some food?" That's not how Jesus approaches Zacchaeus. He stops and talks with Zacchaeus. Remember, probably the most hated man in the area. And remember again, Jesus is a big deal. So this would be very similar. Jesus stopping, calling out Zacchaeus, saying, "Hey man, I want to come and have lunch at your house." This would be like one of, one of your favorite celebrities starting to follow you on Instagram and commenting on all of your pictures. What? That big of a deal? Yeah, that big of a deal. And again, he didn't just say, "Hey, big guy, you in that tree." He looked up and said, "Zacchaeus," called him by name, and then invites himself over to Zacchaeus' house. Now, everybody else knows in that crowd exactly how big of an honor this was. And we get to see the very glimpse of what their hearts were. And this is how the people around respond in Luke 19. It says it's 7 to 10, but it's actually just 7. It says this: all the people saw this and they began to mutter. Ever seen someone mutter? And they began to mutter, "He has gone to be the guest of a sinner." They say about Jesus, Jesus has gone to be a guest of a sinner. They are straight being haters on Zacchaeus, on Jesus. This is the guy that they didn't like, the guy that nobody cared about, the guy that maybe nobody even wanted to get personal with. And yet Jesus goes straight towards him. Why is this a big deal? Why are we talking about it's personal? Why are we talking about this event that happened for Zacchaeus? It's not just for us, but it's because we can, from this story, learn and understand how Jesus reacted with people, responded with people. The guy that Jesus made sure to know and use his name, Zacchaeus. And by the way, Jesus knows your name too. And that might be a little far-fetched for you right now, but it's true. Jesus knows your name too. Like Zacchaeus, maybe the best thing for us to do when we hear something like Jesus knows our name, and maybe our first instance is like, right, yeah. That's what you have to say. We're at GSM. I'm telling you, I truly believe it. Because like Zacchaeus, it might take time to climb up in our tree and to see Jesus for ourselves. Not to see Jesus how the internet sees Jesus, but for us to pick up the Bible, to pick up the books that are accounting Jesus' life and read for ourselves about who Jesus is. Maybe it's time for us to climb up in that tree and to see for ourselves who Jesus is. And no matter what you think about God or faith or other Christians, I want you to know this. It's personal because Jesus knows your name. It's personal because Jesus knows your name. Now, for some of us, what does it look like to actually climb up in the tree and to look for ourselves? Maybe it's just honestly starting to ask questions. And those questions might sound like this. They'll be up on the screen. Maybe you can jot them down in a phone or a piece of paper. What is God like? Really? What is God like? Maybe start asking yourself that question. Maybe start asking this question. What does God say about me? Is that a question that you've thought before? Asked before? What does God say about the people around me? Maybe start with those questions as you begin to climb up in your own tree like Zacchaeus to see Jesus for yourself. Now, here's the other thing. It doesn't stop with just ourselves. He knows and cares about you, absolutely, but he knows and cares about the person that's sitting next to you. He knows and cares about your step-sibling. Jesus knows and cares about that friend that has totally written you off, doesn't even talk to you anymore. Jesus knows and cares about that teacher that's just rude. Here's what I'm getting at. A relationship with Jesus is always personal. It's personal for you and it's personal for me. So let me ask you, how can we make it personal for others? Can we play a part in this? And I believe that we absolutely can. All of those people that I named, and I'm sure there's other people that you can think of that, like that kid that just gets on your nerves constantly. Yep, Jesus knows and cares about that kid. Have you thought about this? The people around you may not know God cares about them personally until you care about them personally. Ooh. You mean I got a part to play in someone else maybe knowing God? Yeah, absolutely. The people around you may not know God cares about them personally until you care about them personally. So the best way to do this, the easiest steps, going back to names. Opposite for people is not fake in relationships. The opposite of fake is personal. So, learn their name. Number 2, learn the right way to pronounce your name. Now, if your name is John, if your name is Matt, if your name is Ashley, you might not have had a lot of people mispronounce your name. But for people in the room that have had their name mispronounced 10 times in a day in each class that they go to, just think about how annoying that is. It's just like, just know my name. And again, if I've ever mispronounced your name, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Last thing, use their name when you see them. Use their name when you see them. Those are quick ways that we can show that God is personal to others when we treat them personally, starting with the name. Now, we have a personal God, and he happens to be a personal God who is mind-blowingly powerful, incredibly creative, and overwhelmingly grace-filled, right? But even with all of that, he knows your name, and he calls you by it.